God's grace and peace are yours in Jesus. Amen. So I've told this joke a bunch of times, but I don't care. I want to tell it again. I actually have 2 funerals this week. It's going to be an interesting week. I'd ask for your prayers. One of them was the oldest living member of our church. He had been in the church. Bob Dylan passed away, and he was a man of few words and great faith. So anyway, and so I tell this often at funerals. I tell it often at funerals. So Albert Einstein, crazy hair guy, he was a professor at Princeton. So that was where he was here in the United States and worked on all kinds of things. But he actually held a position in Princeton University. And he didn't like airplanes, so he took the train everywhere. And so when he get on the train, it was back in the era where a conductor would come through and punch a ticket. I don't know if any of you are old enough to have experienced that. I did. Growing up in New York with the Long Island Railroad, you get a ticket, you stick it on your seat, and the conductor would come along, do that. So I guess that era is probably long, long gone. But the story goes, the conductor comes along, he's punching tickets, and there's Albert Einstein, and the conductor looks, and he's like frantically looking through his pockets and his briefcase, and he's searching his pants, he's just looking. And the conductor comes to him and he says, "Dr. Einstein, it's okay. I'm sure you bought a ticket. We all know who you are. We're not worried about it. Please don't worry anymore." So the conductor goes on, he's punching tickets as he goes. He's about to go out into the next car, and he turns around and he sees now Einstein is like on his hands and knees crawling around on the floor of the train car. He's searching all over. He's in the cushions and he's this and that. And so the conductor hurries back to him and he says, "Dr. Einstein, I wasn't kidding, really. Please don't worry. We know who you are." And he said, "Son, I know who I am too. What I don't know is where I'm going." And it's fun to say, about guys like Bob Dylan, and then Saturday, Jerry Keeley, good friend of us, our church, and wonderful people of faith, to be able to say they may not have talked a lot about it, but they knew where they were going. And so this text today in Luke 13 is about a journey. This is a road trip. This is Jesus on the road. And his home base, is up north in Galilee, and he's ready to make a trip. He's on his way to Jerusalem. This passage you just read, it's kind of fun. If you kind of are a student of the scriptures and you have your eyes open, there are some hints in here. Jesus says some things that we should kind of say, what? What's he saying there? Like when you hear him say things like, "You won't see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Do you know what he's talking about? You won't see me again until when? Palm Sunday. That's when they'll say that. Jesus will enter into Jerusalem on a donkey, and that's what the crowds will say. So he's talking about Jerusalem. That's the next time you're going to see me. That's pretty powerful. Another one that he says here is, I will drive out demons and heal people today and tomorrow, and the third day I will reach my goal. What do you think he's talking about? Come on, you can actually talk to me, really. It's okay. Cade, you're awesome. You raise your hand. You're too awesome. Which one? Easter. Thank you, buddy. Is that good? That's good. You guys should be embarrassed. It's so good. And then he says it not once, but he says it again. "In any case, I must keep going today and tomorrow and the next day, for surely no prophet can die outside Jerusalem." See what he's saying? I got to cast out demons. I'm going to do this today and tomorrow. And on the third day, I will reach my goal. What's the goal? Salvation, right? And then he says, and by the way, if you didn't hear that, I'm going to do this today and tomorrow and the next day, for no prophet can die outside Jerusalem. He identifies himself with prophets and a cross. That's pretty powerful. Jesus is not just dropping hints, he's pointing the way. Here's where we're going. So, one of the things that's kind of interesting, We're starting to contact candidates for coming in to interview for pastor. We're going to have on-site visits. That's going to start in April, first weekend of April. So we'll keep you in the loop so you can meet these guys and visit with them, get to see what they're like and all that. They'll come visit. And so I love to talk to these guys because we've been dealing with them now for 6 months or more. And they've kind of become my friends. I like them all. We got 4 guys we're bringing in. I like them all. And I said to them, hey, if you ever come out, we'll see if we got enough time. We'd love to get you to Yellowstone. Now, some of you are much better than us, but compared to much of the country, we are Yellowstone experts. I mean, really, we've been up there dozens and dozens of times, and we love it when family comes in town, because I tell them we know how to avoid some crowds. We know when to get in and how to avoid that wait. We know some trails and some hikes that not everybody's on. We even know where you can buy knickknacks and tchotchkes cheaper, and we can find food that's not crazy expensive, and we got a way if you come with us. And I'll tell you what, I love that. When somebody says to me, you're visiting, hey, we'll show you around. Because if I go there and not know where I'm going and not sure exactly what I'm doing, that's a great blessing. And that's what Jesus is doing with his disciples and with us. Come with me. I love this element of Jesus' ministry and mission. He sends out his disciples in the middle of his ministry, but that's not common. When Jesus has his disciples together, he's not commonly saying, hey, you go do that, and you go do that, and you go that. It's Jesus says, I'm going to do something, come along. And that's what I want you to hear today. Come with me on the journey. That is a tremendous blessing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm your pastor, and I don't feel like I have the strength or the ability to, if Jesus was to point and say, do that, and I go along. I'd be like a little kid. Jesus, can you come with? I need you to come with. Because the times I've tried to do it on my own don't go good. So I want you to come with me. And thankfully, Jesus has already made that invitation. So I want to walk through this with you a little bit because I think this is there's just 4 points here about journeying with Jesus to his goal. So let's do point 1. I'm going to pray for this today. It just happened over Friday. You know some things have been going on with my family, and I won't burden you with a whole ton of it. One brother passed away rather quickly. I went to that funeral. His challenges with faith and things like that, we don't know. I have another brother who now is in the hospital again with cancer. It's O2 levels. And I've been with my 3 nephews, his 3 sons, significantly doing other things. My one nephew, who talks to me more than the other 2, but I haven't been with him physically, called me as I drove up to Camp Perkins. He talked to me for an hour. And he has 3 kids. One daughter is bipolar, and one daughter, and his son, who is like a 9th grader. And he's finding his way. He's in adolescence, early teenager. That's a whole trip. And then he's got an 18-year-old daughter. Her name is Amelia, if you pray for her. I told him I was doing this, and he said, please do. And he had to call the police to take her out of his home yesterday. And that just breaks a dad's heart. It just breaks your heart, a parent's heart. So she's lost. And that's what he said to me. He doesn't know where she's going. And I want to guide her. And he said, sometimes I don't know where I'm going. He's longing for community. He's longing for people to surround him. And he's lost. And so this is a big deal, this destination. Do you know where you're going? And I don't mean heaven or hell. That's not so much what I'm saying. Do you know where you're going? Because I want to go where Jesus is going. That's what I'm laying out for you. I want to go where Jesus is going. And so the thing that's interesting here is as we journey with Jesus, because sometimes people will say this, and it's not that I think it is wrong. I kind of think it's wrong. I'll hear people say this. The destination doesn't really matter. It's the journey. And I go, no, the destination matters. I mean, the destination matters. You may have 5 different ways to get there, but the destination matters. Now, what's cool about it is journeying along the way well can make the destination a wonderful celebration. And so that's what I think is happening here. So here's the first thing. And I'm kind of hoping my nephew is watching this a little bit, because I think this is, when people are lost, I want them to ask kind of these questions and think through it. And you could talk about this a lot. These are just a very few verses here in this season of Jesus' life as he's journeying to Jerusalem. The first thing is, do you know who your true friends are? So here's what happens in this, right? Did you read? You heard how it went. Pharisees came to Jesus and said to him, leave this place, go somewhere else. Herod, King Herod, wants to kill you. Now, Herod, this is interesting. I'm going to give you a little history here. Herod is like a client king. He's not his own boss, really. The Romans set him up, and he was in charge of, I'll see if I can do this, Galilee, Sea of Galilee, and then Perea, this side, so Jordan River down to Jerusalem, Perea. And he was kind of governor, king of those two things. He was sort of Jewish. He had like a grandpa who was full Jewish, that kind of thing. And so the Romans thought that would work in this Jewish area. And he was not. He was a terrible, terrible human. And then you have the Pharisees. And so people wonder, were the Pharisees warning Jesus? Were they really warning him? Did they have Jesus' best interest at heart? And we almost always know the answer is no. They are almost certainly trying to divert Jesus. In fact, they're probably hoping he doesn't show up in Jerusalem. That's where Jesus is going. Because Jesus is a troublemaker. He moves their cheese all the time. Turns their world upside down. It's a problem. It's a problem for them. But Herod doesn't like Jesus because he stirs up the people. We can't have that happen. He's a nuisance. And we already know Herod is a bad actor because he killed Jesus' cousin, John the Baptist. So there's a problem. Now, and here's the funny thing. It's attractive. Herod has power. What if I get Herod as an ally? What if I get Herod as an ally? Ooh. Or what if I get the religious leaders on my side? Look, it looks like they're helping me. Maybe they'll come over to... I'll only have to compromise a little. Right? And so what they're doing is diverting. They're trying to divert Jesus from what he's doing. And so this is in the world we live in now, that is a fair question. Do you know who your true friends are? And I'm not trying to divide families and people or anything like that. But man, where do you get your true stuff from? I hope it ain't Facebook. Seriously, the world's worst forum to carry on a real conversation. So I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. World's worst forum. It's just kind of like wet toilet paper against the wall. Whack. Where are you getting your info? News sources? Folks, I say this to you all the time. Please know that your truest and best friend is Jesus Christ. And that sitting at the feet of Jesus and doing that with other folks who also long to know the heart of Jesus is absolutely your best and truest guide. Nothing beats it. Now, what's cool about that is as you do that together, you develop a group of friends and people who care about you where you can rely. This is the first thing, right? You've got these people. In other words, my challenge to us is to find your truest friend, and then also pray to become that for someone else. Not an agenda, not an ideology, just the presence of Christ. The presence and promise of Christ. Anyway, second thing. So I have another nephew, my other brother who passed away, his son, Jason. I was only 14 when he was born, so we kind of became buddies. I was his babysitter, and when he became 10, I was in my mid-20s, and Teresa and I didn't have kids yet and stuff. And I would periodically call my brother and sister-in-law and say, hey, can I take Jason? We'll go to Glacier. I got a free 3 days here. Can we run over to Glacier? Yeah, sure. We'd go to Glacier. Or we'd run over. This is when we lived in Seattle. Say, can we go up to Coeur d'Alene and go fishing? Yeah. Can we go over to the coast? Yeah, sure. And so we had all kinds of cool trips. And my style with my nephew was I stop along the way. I'm looking at stuff, and I go, hey, there's this cool state park. It's Lewis and Clark thing. Let's go there. We'd go over there. Hey, this is down in the Columbia River Gorge. Let's go down there, look at some rocks, or, that kind of thing. And he said to me once, and I'm not meaning to disparage my brother at all, because they were in a different time of life. Busy, super busy professionally. But he said, man, my dad never stops. He just drives by all these things. And I said, trust me, if we had a deadline, I'd drive by him too. But we didn't. We could stop along the way. And think about how it affected our conversation at the destination. It was so great because we had all these experiences together that we could talk about at the destination. But my question here is, what will you do along the way? Us. What will we do on the journey? What will we do on the journey? Here's what Jesus did. What did Jesus do? He says, oh, by the way, this is that funny line, go tell that fox. Did you see that in there, Herod? By the way, just so you know, we think fox means either hot looking or clever, right? Isn't that what we think? Or is fox, am I dating myself? Okay, so that's not what it means. It means insignificant because it was a fox as compared to a lion. Go tell that guy who is of no consequence. That's a big deal to say that to the king. He means he is unimportant. He cannot control me. He can't divert me. So then he says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drive out demons, and I'm going to heal people. That's a good word, folks. What do we do along the way? How about we do that? How about we care for people that are broken and reach out with the healing love of Jesus Christ? If we have received such love and such grace, that's part of our journey as we go. Not an obligation, an opportunity. It's not because, I didn't do that today, I'm bad. No, wake up the next day, take the opportunity. Lord, what are you going to do today? And so I love that Jesus says that. I'm going to keep doing what I do. This is what I do. I heal the broken. I give hope to the hopeless and despairing. That's what I do. And that's what those who are with me do because of me. Third thing on this journey. So I was at the men's retreat and I'm sharing some things and talking with some guys, and some of the data things that we read on the church is interesting. Did you know it's 5 years since the pandemic started? Did you know 5 years? It was just like last week, 5 years ago. And some days I think it was like 100 years ago, and some days it's like last week. It's crazy. And it changed us. They do studies now in these last several years on what's changed in the church and what's the biggest challenge to the church and the people of God as they gather. And one, Pew Research, and the other was Barna Group. They said different things but similar. The one said apathy. One is apathy. Kind of the things of God, it's kind of like I'll do them when I have time, or whatever. And then the other one is comfort. People's goal in life is to be comfortable, right? It's interesting because if you're a marketing person, I don't know, here, Alex, I'm going to say this and probably say it wrong because and Paul, sorry. Here's my experts. I should not talk about this. Anyway, you can argue with me later. From my perspective, the goal of marketing is to make you uncomfortable. In other words, that car you're driving, no, you need a better car than that. Or that clothes you're wearing, not in style. I mean, they're great clothes. They work fine. They're fine. But, that haircut you have, not good. Those food choices, and such and so, right? To make you uncomfortable enough to purchase this thing, to move away from the thing that you have to have that. And yet it's interesting. In the church, it seems as if comfort is the thing. Now, here's the irony. On the one hand, comfort is one of the greatest gifts that Jesus Christ brings. I mean, we're doing these funerals this week. I want to bring comfort because of what Christ has done. I want to bring comfort. People are in the hospital. We want to bring comfort. If you would pray for my nephew and his daughter, that would comfort me, and I believe them. So it is an interesting thing. But I'll tell you what, if you think Jesus' purpose in this life was to bring comfort, you ain't been reading much of Jesus. Because when he comes along, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. Not because I think he's wrong, but because I think I'm wrong. Just 2 weeks ago, what did I talk about? Love your enemies. Yeah, right. I'm good at that. You know what I mean? Pray for those who persecute you and so forth. So the thing that's challenging is this. And so therefore, I love what this does. It's a sense of urgency, not comfort. The goal is not comfort. The goal is the mission. And the mission is, if I have not been clear about this through 18 years of ministry, the mission is that heaven would be full. And I don't know about you, I got people in my life who I love to death. And I don't know when Jesus is coming back, right? I don't know. And I would like them to be in heaven with Jesus Christ with me. I would like that. I long for it. So I got a sense of urgency about what I do. People will ask me. They used to ask me, why do you work the hours you work? Why do you work as hard as you work? I said, because I don't know when Jesus is coming back. And I got limited time. Now, don't be stupid, right? I actually do not literally have a cot in my office, as people accuse me of. But I mean that. And Jesus does this. There's a sense of urgency to what he does. It's not frantic. Frantic, not good. It's purposeful, but it's urgent. How does he say it? In any case, I must keep going today and tomorrow and the next day, for surely no prophet can die outside Jerusalem. There's an urgency, an imperative I must do. And that's joining Jesus on his journey. I don't know if this would play well with Jesus. It might. Let's say, I'm about to burn out, Jesus. I need a couple days off. Jesus might say, fine. But if you say to him, I just don't know if I like working that hard. Jesus might say, I'm going. Come with? Want to come with? So I think there's a sense of urgency because of the mission, because of people. Last thing. It's interesting because Jesus in that last line, no prophet can die outside Jerusalem. Here's just a little theological thing in the text, a little exegetical thing. Jesus is identifying with the prophets. You remember when Peter, how am I doing on time? Okay, I'll get you out okay. Jesus says to Peter, who do people say that I am? You remember this? Matthew 16. Who do people say? And they list off like 4 prophets. That's a big deal for Jewish people, celebrities. You're a prophet. And Jesus says, blessed are you. You got it. When Peter then answers, but he says, who do you say that I am? And Peter says, you're the Messiah. You're the Son of the living God. Jesus says, well done. But they identify him with a prophet. And Jesus says, I'm the Messiah. I am more than a prophet. But he identifies with the prophet. And this is what's funny about Peter. Jesus goes, oh, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. Flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father which is in heaven. And now I will call you Peter, because upon this rock, your confession of faith, on this faith, that I am the Messiah, the Savior, I'll build my whole church. Awesome, right? Like in the next breath, Jesus says, now let me tell you what it means to be the Messiah. I got to get handed over to the bad guys and they're going to crucify me. And Peter goes, he's in marketing. He goes, that's bad play, Jesus. That's a bad play. Right? He goes, you can't be saying that. And Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. Because you don't understand how God works. You're thinking like people think. God ain't thinking that way. And so here's the thing. We want to get Jesus right. When I say to you, prophet, I am guessing that the first thing that comes into your mind is not a warm, cuddly image. I'm guessing if I say prophet, you might think of something like John the Baptist. He's eating bugs and wearing stinky clothes and yelling at people. That's a common image of a prophet. They confront you on things, right? Nathan says to David, you're the man. Jeremiah comes in and says, the temple's going to be destroyed, that kind of thing. And Jesus identifies with the prophet, but we want to get Jesus right. Herod gets him wrong. Herod thinks he's a nuisance. Herod thinks he's going to be a troublemaker. Pharisees, they see Jesus as a threat, a heretic. Even the crowds, Jesus, he gives us stuff. He gives us nice stuff. The right picture is what Jesus gives here. This is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, and I know I say that a lot, but this is such a great verse. You should mark it in your Bible. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those who are sent to you. Ugh, how I longed to gather you. As a hen gathers her chicks. It's an old story. A firefighter told this true story. He was fighting fires in the upper Midwest, wildfires, grass fires and prairie fires. And as they were going across, making sure to put out all the embers, they saw a lot of devastation and a lot of animals that get caught in the smoke and stuff like that. And one they found was a prairie chicken, a grouse. sitting there, and to get the embers, you just kind of nudge everything and to put them out. They nudge that, the grouse is clearly past as dead. Nudge it, and out of underneath comes 8 little chicks. And that image is powerful, isn't it? Of the mom willing to cover the children. Jesus is going to do that. He's going to do that. That's the journey we're on here in Lent. That's why I love Lent. Jesus is going to be that mother hen. He is going to gather his children to him. Not all will come, but he's going to go through the fire so that we could live. That's getting Jesus right. That's the journey with Jesus. To God be the glory. Amen.